Jiro here for Umbra Games with a review of No Man's Sky on PlayStation 4. Hyped since day one of PlayStation 4's announcement, indie developer Hello Games promised a galaxy of nearly infinite planets to explore and discover, with each player starting on their own. So what do you do with 18 quintillion planets at your fingertips? Well, I'll hold all spoilers until the end of the video, but I do want to talk about the ending and the overall theme of the game, but I'll give another spoiler warning before I do so. Let's talk first about the terms procedural generation. I'm sure most people are familiar with the concept by now, but just in case. The planets and their contents in No Man's Sky are the results of an algorithm. There wasn't a level designer making all the mountains and valleys and choosing what life forms inhabit them. They created a mathematical formula to give each planet shape and populace based on those rules. Other popular games that use procedural generation range from the large-scale Diablo series down to the indie favorite The Binding of Isaac. Minecraft is another that builds the world randomly before dumping you into it. A series of assets are created and ways to put them, but probably more importantly not to put them, are applied, and voila. You begin No Man's Sky next to your crashed ship, which requires a couple of repairs and enhancements to make it space-worthy. Once you complete some checklists of gathering materials and finding some blueprints, you can leave the planet in a very impressive, no loading time launch towards the stars. Once you obtain a hyperdrive to travel to other star system, the hyperdrive map puts you on a path towards the center of the galaxy, with your basic hyperdrive able to take you one system at a time. While doing some planetary exploration, you may stumble across a monolith that lets you know of a being called Atlas, and gives you coordinates to continue along the path this entity sets for you. This path has been deemed by many as the true story of No Man's Sky, as while following it is the only one that gives you objectives and checkpoints. If you haven't heard by now, don't sell the items given to you by the Atlas interfaces, no matter how tempting the price may be or how limited your inventory is if you wish to continue that path. While on the surface, No Man's Sky takes the form of a first-person shooter. You have an upgradable multi-tool that starts with a simple mining beam fired with the X button, but can be upgraded in power and functionality with the addition of a bolt caster, switched to by pressing triangle, and a grenade launcher fired in either mode with L1. Using this multi-tool, you can locate resource deposits of silicates notated by a blue icon, oxides in yellow, and isotopes in red. You also have an exosuit that provides protection from the elements, radiation, and toxicity, and a life support system that gives you oxygen. Your elemental protection depletes while you're in the open and can be recharged through the consumption of oxides. Your life support functions in the same manner, but with isotopes like carbon and plutonium as their fuel. Your multi-tool functions also require isotopes. So, as with the survival genre, there's a constant necessity to keep a stock of resources handy for protection. While on a planet, you can use your visor and analyze life forms, both flora and fauna. As you scan them with L2, they become available for upload into the galactic database, where you can go with their default name, or call it whatever you wish. If anyone is to encounter those species, your PSN name will be on it, showing that you discovered it first. Every upload you make nets you some units, the galactic currency that you can use for commodities, ships, and upgrades. Due to the nature of procedural generation, though, a lot of the life forms look really similar. Imagine we had a number of heads, bodies, and limbs, and a size multiplier, and when you land on a planet, you get a creature that looks like it came out of EA's Spore or NX's Evo: The Search for Eden. Different species have different personalities, determining if they will attack you or run. On 4 different planets, I had what appeared to be the same bug that would attack me. And once I had a T-Rex looking thing that, other than that, the wildlife appeared indifferent. Your main foes on your travels are the Sentinels, that I'm sure have a deeper origin and purpose than we see at first, but otherwise serve as Grand Theft Auto cops, coming after you if you mine too much of a resource in one place, attack a local life form, or attempt to break into something that you shouldn't be. I saw a few forms, the basic flyers, some 4-legged ones, and some giant bipeds. The sameness, however, doesn't stop with creatures though, as the same mushrooms, rock formations, and flowers also seem to appear on every planet as a different species, making it difficult to remember if you uploaded this glowing yellow flower or if that was the last planet. Sure, some palettes will swap, and the system star might be a different color, or this place may be toxic where the last one was too hot, but one of my key issues with procedural generation is that everything is so random that it all looks the same. There are a handful of location types found on the surface that also repeat themselves planet after planet. You can find monoliths that teach you languages, monoliths that present a scenario that you have to try and answer correctly based on the words from the language you found. There are waypoints that sometimes have cargo, settlements that sometimes have technology or money to find, abandoned buildings that will usually reveal a blueprint, supply pods where you can buy extra inventory slots for your exosuit, outposts where an alien life form will usually reside, trade posts where ships will land routinely and have a shop for you to sell and purchase, and manufacturing buildings where you can break in and steal recipes. This brings me to the gameplay loop. The whole purpose of No Man's Sky is to travel to the center of the galaxy. You do so by using warp cells. You create warp cells in a couple of different ways. The blueprints I found was to use carbon to create this fluid, add plutonium to make it a vapor, zinc to make it antimatter, and then thallium-9 to turn the antimatter into a warp cell. Sure, you can make money by searching for life forms you haven't seen, or you can take 10 plutonium and 10 iron, two of the most plentiful elements, and make a bypass chip that sells for 7 or 8 times the amount of that element alone. So I pretty much had two purposes for planetary exploration: making money by gathering iron and plutonium, or making warp cells to further my journey. The blueprints you find are to upgrade your suit's life support or shielding, increase your running stamina or jetpack duration, increase the damage your mining beam does to terrain or its cooldown period, or make your grenades increase in power or ricochet. Once again, with everything being random, you don't know what you're going to find, and will often be duplicate technologies that grant you nothing as you're searching to find those last few. The same applies to ships as you increase shielding strength, photon cannon, and laser strength and cooldown, or engine fuel consumption. Now, space combat itself is pretty brutal. It feels like it relies more on your upgrades than it does skill, something like a battle out of Star Trek. You're not dodging and barrel rolling to effect. You're adjusting a path of approach and hope your shields outlast their fire, and your weapons can do enough damage to stop them from firing. My first distress call I responded to, I was outnumbered 15-1, and hadn't had an upgrade yet, so you can kind of guess how that went. When you are killed though, you spawn a new generation, aka start from your last save point, and if you want your inventory back, you must reach your newly spawned grave to recover it. There didn't really seem to be any penalty for death otherwise. So, you don't need narrative in a sandbox game, right? You're here to explore and just live. Well, No Man's Sky can help you with that, and add to it by providing you milestones. These milestones provide a sort of achievement system, noting when you've warped to X number of systems, or met and solved the problem of Y aliens, or learned Z number of words in an alien dialect. Each milestone has 10 levels of success and are also tied to the PlayStation trophy system. As a side note though, these do appear to be the gateway to progress in the aforementioned Atlas path, requiring specific sums of overall milestones in order to continue. So let's talk about what No Man's Sky really is. I mean, these guys have created an algorithm that allegedly maintains 18 quintillion objects and allows players to name them and their sub-objects. They've created planet-generating patterns complete with tunnel systems under the surface. I mean, this algorithm is a true marvel. If someone enjoys endless amounts of exploration and wants to feel what it'd be like to explore space, those are the people that would probably enjoy this game the most. Be warned though, returning to a planet just after leaving its atmosphere, sometime even when it's not your fault, when a weird overlaunching you just takes you directly into space, the terrain is rerouted entirely, and the alien that asked for some thallium-9 that you went to destroy an asteroid for may no longer exist. Sometimes it's going to look like that mineral deposit you mined just came back, but once you get closer you find it's not really there. Procedural generation also means texture generation, which oftentimes isn't there until you're available to watch it pop in. I think what I'm getting at is that I'm in awe of the technology, but the gameplay experience itself isn't solid. So let's move on to a moment for those spoilers I was talking about. Here we go, you hear me? Spoilers. Feel free to fast forward a minute if you don't want to hear it. The theory of this game is based on the simulation theory of the universe, which some call theoretical physics and some call philosophy 101. This theory is that we as humans are not real, but are in fact lines of code of some virtual reality developed by another technologically advanced race. Their point of proof is that we've made so many jumps in video game technology in the last 50 years that 10,000 years from now, we will be able to create a simulation and the people in it will think they're alive. Now, the character you play in No Man's Sky is you, making your way through life trying to solve the secrets of the universe, one where the creator can just hit a reset button and start things all over again. Now, Haven't heard creator Sean Murray confirm all these facts, but by demonstrating he can create a massive random galaxy of incredible proportions, he's demonstrated a step of this theory, all while illustrating it. And I admit, I find that very fascinating. Let's just hope life doesn't crash as much as this game does. I spent about 20 or so hours completing the Atlas path, and after reaching it, decided to try again and reach the center of the galaxy without it. I could barely get 2 jumps, and the game would crash on me to a point where it got frustrating with the fact that I was going to have to make 1,000 hyperdrive jumps if I didn't find the blueprints of the further upgraded hyperdrive. And finding that upgraded hyperdrive in this world of randomness, where I got the second level of hyperdrive from a random alien in a routine space station who I allowed to perform experiments on my body. So, while I have reverence for the algorithm as a mathematician and a data guy, as a gamer, I would have almost preferred 100 well-designed unique planets over this endless space. This game is a 100-acre playground with 1 slide and 1 jungle gym. But some people just like going for a walk. Which brings me to this place where I honestly have no clue how to quantitatively rate this game. Shooting 50 sentinels in a bunch of rock formations in 20 hours doesn't make this a first-person shooter. Getting into 3 space combat situations doesn't really make it a flight sim. I guess the survival genre is a thing now, but this would be the first one I've ever played, and it doesn't really seem like it's quite the point of the game either. It honestly has a lot in common with the first Mass Effect, just missing the solid narrative and intense combat, instead offering 360-degree flight exploration, and of course a much more massive scale. It has the sandbox feel of a Minecraft, but as of now there's no building, and nothing you touch stays that way once you leave the planet. So let's do this. Sandbox, 3D flying, first-person shooter, survival hybrid. Using relevant criteria for each of those genres for those that need a quantitative score, No Man's Sky hits a 54 out of 100. This is Giro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. Trying to make this the home of #objective reviews. Feel free to subscribe to the channel for more, or catch me on Twitter @UmbraGames.